Before we dive into today's show, if you want the Cowboys to return to the playoffs, because let's be honest, everyone here does, except for the Eagles hate watchers, like the video for me, please, and thank you. Don't be the one who jinxes it. So Pro Football Focus has ranked every position group in the NFL, sometimes grouping some to like defensive line was not separated out by DT or edge, and the top players at each position. So the overall PFF rankings were as follows, acknowledging that it was different authors who wrote for each individual subsection. So overall, PFF has the Cowboys at 15th among all NFL teams based on their roster. However, quarterback is 17 in Dak Prescott. The running back room was 32nd. The receiving core was 15. The offensive line was 23. The defensive line was 12th. The linebackers were 27, and the secondary was 31. So I don't understand how you can claim the Cowboys have a top half of the league roster, and yet exactly two of the position groups of the team are top half. That doesn't make any sense to me. Something isn't aligning here. Either you're way too high on your overall roster rankings, or you messed up in the individual position tiering. We know there's not some magical coaching bump right now. They only did top 10 coaches. Schottenheimer was not on there. He's a first-time head coach. I think there is some, I don't want to start shit here, but there's just some flat-out wrong opinions. It might be your opinion. You can still be wrong. I think we should get back to that as a society. Anyway, is PFF hating on the Cowboys with these rankings? Let me know in the comments why for yes and for no. Go vote at the pinned comment of today's show. Let's go position by position. The quarterbacks, for the most part, in the top 8, I'm not really going to argue that much about. I think you can disagree with where they go. I actually am higher than I think most of you watching on Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback. I don't think that's fair. But I get everyone else on there, and everyone loves Herbert's arm, so it's fair. It's this next batch of quarterbacks that doesn't make sense to me. You got Jared Goff at 9. Geno Smith is 10. Brock Purdy's 11. Jordan Love's 12. Baker's 13. Stroud is 14. Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence are 15 and 16, ahead of Dak Prescott at 17. Before I rant, this is what PFF's John Kosko wrote about Dak. He's the epitome of a quarterback who thrives against weaker opponents, but falters when the competition stiffens. He earned a 90 PFF grade in 2023, behind only Lamar, Allen, and Mahomes before a late-season collapse ended his MVP bid. By the way, if Pollard scores or Lipke doesn't fumble, he still might win MVP that year. In 2024, the Cowboys stumbled early, and a season-ending injury sidelined Dak before he could rebound. To rejoin the top 10 convo, he must recapture the 2023 form and prove he can deliver against the league's best. Here's my issue. If we want to be upset, which is valid and justified and fair, about the lack of big-time success, what we're really arguing here from PFF is they haven't won enough playoff games. They haven't won enough big games in the end. Okay, that's fair. We can't use that as an argument to say he's actually a bottom-half QB. How can we make that argument and at the exact same time rank Geno Smith and Kyler Murray and Trevor Lawrence and all these other QBs who actually haven't done anything better in the postseason than Dak Prescott? How is that fair? How does that make sense? We can't make the argument be, hey, he does a lot of stuff good. He's like a top 10 QB, but he's bad against better teams. So we're going to use that argument only to put him behind other QBs who are even worse in big games. If Dak Prescott ever played as badly and didn't want to go back in a game like Kyler Murray did, he would never have lived that down. It's not the criticism that bothers me. I think it's mostly fair. It's the double standard. It's using the 10, 15% to justify ignoring the other 75 whatever percent, 85%, 90%. It's a double standard. We can't say Dak isn't good enough in big games and put these other QBs ahead of them when they are worse. How does that make... That's not fair. That's not unbiased opinion. That's just cherry picking. So, knowing it's going to drive controversial responses, rank Dak Prescott for me among NFL QBs. 17 is crazy low. It's not objectively accurate as far as I'm concerned. If you want to be worried about the injuries, that's fair too. It should be top 15 at minimum. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Now, what might be more fair is the running back ranking. PFF ranked him 32nd in the NFL. And look, I get it. I get it. It's worth mentioning it's running backs and not the running game overall here. But Javonte Williams wasn't that great in Denver. Miles Sanders wasn't good in Carolina, period. Jaden Blue, I like, was a 5th-round pick. Deuce Vaughn, Phil Moff haven't done anything, and we're late day 3 picks. So I get the running back room being lowly rated. That's honestly fair. It's also, you would argue, the least impactful grouping here. The pass catcher rankings, I also don't really get. I think the top 8, I think like put these in the top 10. Like, yeah, Eagles, Bucks, Bengals, Lions, Niners, Vikings, Dolphins, Rams. Those are all great pass catching units. Dallas being 15th behind teams like the Bears and the Texans and the Falcons and the Ravens and the Commanders. Like, Lamb is better than every single one of those teams' number 1 wide receivers. I don't think you can argue any of those teams' number 2 receivers are better than George Pickens. A couple of the tight ends, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews / Isaiah Likely, better tight ends, but like Jalen Tolbert was more productive than most of those teams' number 3 receivers. What I think really happened here was I kind of unfairly double counted the backs in the pass catching, which if you already graded the running back rooms, why isn't this just wide receiver tight ends? This feels too low for me. Like, this feels like it's only 5, whatever. It still feels several slots below where it should be. CeeDee Lamb was PFF's number 6 receiver. These are all based on their own rankings, by the way, individual articles. Jake Ferguson was number 17 at tight ends, behind Taysom Hill, which didn't make any sense to me. George Pickens, by the way, is not in the top 32. We'll come back to Pickens. Ferguson, maybe you can argue like a couple spots. It's not off by a lot because he struggled last year, so I'm okay with that. At PFF's top receivers, I don't know how you can argue Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase behind A.J. Brown. I don't agree with that. I wouldn't argue Lamb ahead of those guys. You want to put Brown at 3? Okay. I would flip Amon-Ra Puka Nacua behind Lamb. By the way, the top 6, that's fine. George Pickens, among the qualifying wide receivers graded out last year by PFF, he was 24th in their overall grades. So him not being 32nd is weird. You put Debo in front of him. Debo's built like me right now. That's not a good thing. I don't know how, and this is not a PFF specific thing. We went from like the Steelers and Pickens and Metcalf being ranked as a top 5 wide receiver, top 10 wide receiver duo, and then not doing it with a better receiver in CeeDee Lamb. That's weird to me. A lot more of this to come, but this Cowboys hoodie is on sale. Chatsports.com/Cowboys hoodie. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. It was $90. Now it's down all the way to $54. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Let's go to the offensive line. PFF ranking the Cowboys at 23. And I think this unit has more room for up and down in terms of where they sit. Maybe not that much down. Notable player ranks, no tackles ranked in the top 32. I get it. Tyler Smith was 6th among guards. Cooper Beebe, 16th among centers. He was behind Biadasz. I actually disagree. He was better than Biadasz was down the stretch. Either way, Zoltan Budaj was the PFF guy who wrote the O-line write-up. Considered team strength not long ago, the Cowboys' O-line is full of question marks. Tyler Guyton's rookie season yielded just the 49.4 PFF grade. That was 73rd. Initially Guyton to the starters who were early in their careers, Beebe and Tyler Booker, who should replace Zach Martin. I think the, let's pause and not anoint it as an elite unit is fair. Like, if Guyton's bad this year, this unit might just stink. There is the possibility the youth movement doesn't work or it's really up and down and inconsistent. So I think you can argue it should be a little bit higher. It should be maybe closer to league average with upside. Like, if you were doing, range of outcomes, the Cowboys one's got a pretty big range of outcomes. I think it's still a little bit on the back end of the ranking from PFF to where it should be. And you guys know I am a Cowboys fan. I will always tell it to you straight. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad. Sometimes it's somewhere in between. If you want that type of coverage, hit the sub button right now. Let's go to the defensive line. PFF ranking them 12th here. I would have loved to have seen their pure edge, pure defensive line rankings, like DTs. Micah was their number 2 edge. ESPN ranked him 3rd on their rankings, so that's accurate. Osa was the number 25 defensive lineman, which allow me to explain let me show you what Zoltan said, because I think it explains it pretty well. The Dallas D-line was one of the worst units against the run in 2024, but still boasts elite edge defender Micah Parsons, who graded out 3rd among NFL players. Osa brought the heat from the inside, placing 12th with his pass rushing grade. The Cowboys unit could rank significantly higher by just being average against the run in 2025, which would be an improvement from last season. I think that's fair. I would argue at times it wasn't just the interior of the defensive line that was to blame for that, but I do think, in like a top 5 pass rush and bottom 5-ish, bottom 10-ish run defense, 12th is reasonable. Now for some more low rankings. The linebackers are 27th, where they don't have high praise. I'm not surprised by it because PFF hates Kenneth Murray. Dalton Wasserman, writing, Dallas' linebacker is filled with familiar names, but not a track record of elite production. Overshown's going to miss a portion of the season. Kenneth Murray's posted sub-55 PFF grades in each of his 5 seasons. Jack Sanborn's a rotational player who's familiar with DC Matt Eberflus. Damone Clark and Maurice Leofau predict a serviceable depth with low production ceilings. I would love to know how PFF would have ranked this linebacking core if it had a healthy DeMarvion Overshown. How high up does that unit move? How high? I'm very curious about that. Got the secondary to go here. But grade the Cowboys roster for me. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Outside of the quarterback, and maybe even including it, this one makes least amount of sense to me. The secondary ranking 31st among all NFL teams. I think there are some valid concerns with this unit. I've talked about one in another corner. That's fine. This is a joke to me. They're behind the Dolphins, who have 1 safety and 0 corners. What are we doing out here? Happens to be the exact same guy that wrote the Dak Prescott one. The Cowboys looked at strength 2 years ago, but injuries, coach changes, and key departures depleted the unit's depth. Daron Bland followed his record-setting 2023 campaign with a difficult 2024 one after returning from injury. Diggs has been on the replicated 11 INT year in 2021, totaling 8 picks while missing time due to injuries. While there is still talent in this group, the prime years of these players may already be behind them unless an infusion of youth provides a spark. Look, even with I think injury stuff being valid, and I get the Diggs concerns, what are we doing with Daron Bland? Why are we acting like a guy in his 4th year is cooked? That's an outlier if that's the case. He just turned 26 years old. What do you mean his prime is gone? How does that make any sense? And I would be more inclined to agree with this if they had mentioned anything about the safety unit. Because they ranked Daron Bland 32 among corners. I think that's kind of low, but whatever. They had Hooker as their 17th best safety. There's no way Donovan Wilson brings that unit down in its entirety. I don't get it. Pick a lane here. You're not being consistent, and consistency or lack thereof bothers me. So back to the pinned comment, then I want to give you one other example and one more piece of conversation here. Is PFF hate on the Cowboys? It's the pinned comment, remember. Y for yes, N for no. This is very similar to, this is online talk, so it's not real, but one day you'll have people saying the Cowboys got bad players. CeeDee Lamb's not that good. Eagles fans. Diggs is not that good. Bland's bad. Micah stinks. The next day, it's a loaded roster. They're so good, they're top half. That's a great example of this, where the overall team's top 15, and yet none of the units actually grade out that highly. So which is it? Where are you wrong? It ends up being used to drag down a few select players, whether it's the quarterback or the receiver or the edge, the high-paid guys of, it's a loaded team, but actually we hate all the individual players. How does that make any sense? A dissenting opinion I want to show you is the Sharp Football Rankings, Warren Sharp's site. 13th ranked quarterback, still last in the backfield. The receiver tight end room goes up to number 8 after being down at number 15. Offensive line jumps up several spots to 16, right on the league average. The front, including linebackers, stays at number 12, and the secondary goes to 24. So, linebackers include the front 7, 12 and 27 to just 12. Doesn't that grouping feel a little bit more fair and accurate? Isn't that more in line with what I think would make sense, what you think would make sense? I certainly think so. Let me know if you do as well.